Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Ramblings of an Old Fart podcast. Hello, my name is Craig Warren. I'm 71 years old, been married almost 53 years, father of 9 and grandpa to a bunch. I'm sort of retired. I retired at 65 to provide full-time care for my wife, who's had some pretty serious health issues. But lately I realized that I needed something to do to keep my mind active. So why not a podcast? I have a lot of experience. I've done a lot of things in my 50-plus years in the workforce. I definitely have a lot of opinions, so what more would I need? I should mention that I have never been a member of a political party, and I do not intend to do so. My podcasts do not come from a political place, just from a factual and common sense place. And in this podcast, I wanted to talk to you about a recent event here, the collision at LaGuardia Airport last night. This is quite a devastating reminder of how thin the margin of error is in our national infrastructure. Reports indicate that an Air Canada Express jet collided with a Port Authority fire truck that had been cleared to cross the runway while responding to a separate emergency. Tragically, both pilots died in that Air Canada Express. But this hits on a significant point regarding what I consider government-caused risk. While it's rare for a single staffing issue to be the only cause, investigators are currently looking at whether the DSH TSA funding lapse and chronic FAA controller shortages created a Swiss cheese effect. The conditions where multiple small failures align to cause a catastrophe, like last night. This isn't the first time, though. Over the last 20 to 30 years, there have been several instances where government policy, staffing, and oversight failures have led to physical and financial harm, property damage. Let's take, the FAA has struggled with a retirement bubble lately. And training backups for decades. We get all these government shutdowns and everything. So now we are way low on controllers, and of course we're way behind in the training process to bring more of them along. But let's go back to 2025 in Washington, D.C. We had that mid-air collision just over a year ago. American Airlines jet and the military helicopter. Investigations highlighted that the tower was understaffed with one person performing the work of 2. That's a key point. 2023, we had a major spike in near misses. The U.S. saw a record number of serious runway incursions or near collisions. We had them in Austin, JFK, Sarasota. The NTSB chair explicitly warned that the system was showing clear signs of strain due to controller fatigue. 2006, we had the Conair Flight 5191. A regional jet took off from the wrong runway. It was too short. Crashed off the end of the runway. That was in Lexington, Kentucky, and killed 49 people. A contributing factor was a lone controller in the tower who was performing the job, doing a job that 2 people should be doing. It's a common occurrence, it appears to me, recently. Then moving on to infrastructure and other safety issues. Sometimes the government the cause isn't actually a person, but a failure of the state to maintain the systems it manages. For instance, in 2007, we have the I-35 bridge collapse in Minnesota. 13 people were killed. A major highway bridge collapsed during rush hour. The NTSB blamed a design flaw, but also noted that government inspections failed to identify the critical danger. Okay? They didn't do their job. 2014, the VA hospital scandal. This was a financial and physical harm situation where government-run healthcare facilities used secret waiting lists to hide how long veterans were waiting for care. At least 40 veterans died in the Phoenix area alone while waiting for appointments that the government claimed were on schedule. While not a physical crash, there are instances where the government oversight or lack thereof led to massive public suffering. Take a look at the 2008 financial crisis. Many analysts argued that the Federal Reserve and regulators like SEC caused the harm by maintaining low interest rates too long and failing to regulate toxic assets. This led to millions of foreclosures and lost life savings. It's like at Hurricane Katrina in 2005. This is often cited as the ultimate operational failure. The breach of the levees. They were designed and supposed to be maintained by the Army Corps of Engineers. And then we had FEMA, an extremely slow response, contributed to the deaths of 1,800 people. It wasn't a natural disaster alone. It was failure of government and engineering and the emergency management system. During shutdowns like the one we're in now again, essential workers like air traffic controllers and TSA officers are forced to work without pay. Historical data from 2018 and 2019, when we had a major shutdown, showed that staffing drops off dramatically as workers call in sick. They often call in sick to work side jobs because they're not getting paid from their regular job. Got to have some money to pay the bills, right? Then we have stress and fatigue. That increases the likelihood of communication errors. Also increases the chance that somebody's going to be stuck working, doing the job that two people should be doing, right? Like we've seen yesterday. Initial reports indicate that that could very well be the situation in that crash there in New York. Then we also have an issue where inspections stop. That means safety audits for aircraft and runways and bridges don't get done. We often talk about constitutional integrity or the party power or abstract ideas like that. But it all comes down to when the government and our legislatures can't pass a budget. The margin for error on a runway in New York or a bridge in Manhattan or in Minnesota shrinks to zero, right? When they're overstressed and underpaid, bad things are going to happen. So there's some things we see here in this situation. One is a resignation spike. I mentioned earlier that we've already seen like 300 TSA people in the last 30 days have resigned or quit. And then we have the training freeze that I mentioned, so that we're not only losing people, but we're not being able to train people to replace them. Quite often, this causes an experience strain because a lot of the people who leave are the ones that are the most trained, the people we rely on the most. And then 4, we have the Uber factor. People are fatigued from their job, but yet they take on side work to be able to pay the bills. This isn't just in the TSA and in that kind of stuff. We have it through all departments of government. Some of them just don't have the really horrible outcomes like we had in New York. It's kind of like a death by 1,000 cuts, if you will. Each partial shutdown feels like a temporary political standoff, but for the safety systems of the country, it's more like a permanent structural weakening. For example, the TSA claims it is short about 3,000 traffic controllers. But we've lost an additional 300 approximately in the last 30 days because of the shutdown. Not just this shutdown, but we've had, 3 of them in the last 6 months? The agency responsible for finding new candidates and training them is shut down as well. So we are losing more people, but have no way to replace them. So here's the way I look at it. Even if we could replace them, it takes 3 to 4 years to get a fully trained and certified air traffic controller. So even if our leaders could pull their heads out right this minute and start a massive hiring and training program, it would be at least 2030 before we even come close to meeting the real staffing requirements. And that would require no more shutdowns. And what's the probability of that, right? So here's what I term for this podcast, the real truth, the 49% failure. It starts with the collision last night. Was this a freak accident, or was this the inevitable result of a system running on empty? Since the fiscal year began October 1st of 2025, our government has been in full or partial shutdown for 84 days out of the 173 days. That's a 48.5% failure rate in my book, so I just rounded off to 49. This is just it's just interrupting our basic operational funding. So here's the deal. Now, because of all of this, we have 84 days of disruption. We are forcing air traffic controllers into mandatory 10-hour days, 6 days a week. Research shows that the cognitive areas spike by 30% in that kind of a situation. This isn't a policy issue, it's a biological one. Not only are they likely to make more errors, but we're also, like we've seen in at least 3 instances we've mentioned, we have people trying to do the job of 2 people, right? That increases that factor even more. For nearly the half of the last 6 months, FAA Academy's been closed, right? They're not training any new people to take their places. Explicitly, I want to just state that this is not a red or a blue problem, right? It's not a political thing. Both parties have used the budget as a hostage for policy goals. Healthcare for one side, DHS border on the other, whatever. While they argue the margin of error on the runway, LaGuardia, or a bridge in Minnesota, is being erased, right? I mean, when these people are overworked, there's no margin of error. I mean, they're right on the edge all the time. Constitutional integrity isn't just about words on a page. It's about the integrity of the systems. We need to demand that safety critical roles, ATC, TSA, medical oversight, are permanently decoupled from political standoffs. Reliability is a prerequisite for safety. If you're in a business, if you have a supplier that failed 49% of the time, you'd fire them, right? In government, the citizens are the ones paying the price. Just realize, our Congress has, in the last 6 months, failed 49% of the time, as far as I'm concerned. They shut the government down, and they just can't get along, can't do anything, and we're the ones paying the price. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, initial reports of the crash in New York indicates that 1 person in the tower was doing the work of 2, controlling the planes in the sky, while also tracking emergency and maintenance machinery on the ground. I'm sure that all the bureaucratic organizations will find a fall guy here, in all of their investigations. But let's be clear. A large part of the blame falls directly on our leadership. This, to me, comes back to the destructive nature of the political party system, of which I have never been a part of. When allegiance to party is greater than the allegiance to the country, and to their constituents, if I might add, we have lost the game. I mentioned in a previous podcast that we never say the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. We have truly lost, or have we truly lost, or traded our allegiance? We have to decide, and soon, I think. If we no longer pledge our allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, our republic is already dead. As I think about all of this, it occurs to me that with the failure of our leadership and our court system and our government agencies, our government has become one of the most dangerous things in our lives, and they are too busy playing political games to even notice. I'm going to leave it there today because I think this is a lot to think about. We're at a really dangerous point in our nation's history. I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you found it entertaining, educational, or thought-provoking. Join me next time, won't you? I'm Craig Warren. This has been the Ramblings of an Old Fart Podcast. God bless and keep you till next time.